Promotion. My husband let out a sharp laugh that sliced through the boardroom. He leaned back in his leather chair, lacing his fingers behind his head. Oh no. I gave it to Hazel. My breath caught. Around the table, eyes darted away from mine. Hazel smirked, her lipstick perfectly applied, her voice dripping with mockery as she leaned forward. Oops. Forgot to mention it. Silence. Except for the humming of the air conditioner. Except for the hammering in my chest. Hi everyone. My name is Seraphine Vale, and in that moment, I wasn't just betrayed. I was erased. My marriage, my career, my loyalty, all reduced to background noise in a single laugh. For 7 relentless years, I built myself into the foundation of this firm. I was the one who stayed late when everyone else left. I was the one who knew the clients by their children's names, who cleaned up his mistakes before they burned us all, who gave every piece of myself because I believed sacrifice meant recognition. I thought my husband, my boss, would see me. That the company I practically bled for would value me. But instead, I was the punchline. I forced my lips into a thin smile, because in corporate cages, composure is survival. My nails carved crescents into my palms beneath the table, but I didn't let a single word escape. Hazel flipped her hair, basking in the glow of a position she didn't earn, while my husband's smirk told me exactly what he thought: I'd never leave. I was too loyal, too predictable. When the meeting ended, I walked quietly back to my office, my tiny, window-shadowed corner where I'd spent more nights than in my own bed. I packed my belongings into a cardboard box, the mug with "Best Employee" written in fading paint, a wilted plant I'd kept alive through winters, and a photo of us on our wedding day, the smiles now looking like strangers. But when I lifted that box, something inside me shifted. It wasn't just my belongings I was carrying out. It was the weight of their underestimation. That afternoon, I cleared my desk. But the moment I stepped out of that building, I wasn't broken. I was calculating. Because what I did next, that wasn't weakness. That was the beginning of my revenge. And it started with a message I never thought I'd send. The sun outside felt wrong, too bright, too indifferent. I set the cardboard box on the backseat of my car and sat there, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My mascara had smudged just slightly, a faint shadow beneath my eyes. I looked like a woman on the edge of breaking. But the truth was different. I wasn't breaking. I was sharpening. My phone buzzed in my lap. For a moment, I expected a text from him, some smug message telling me to be mature or don't make this dramatic. But no. Nothing. Just silence. The kind of silence that told me he believed I'd vanish quietly, like an old employee being phased out. That's when I opened my contacts and scrolled. My thumb hesitated over a name I hadn't touched in months. Clara Whitmore. Former colleague. Fired 2 years ago, scapegoated for a financial mess that wasn't hers. A mess my husband created. She'd warned me once, eyes heavy with pity. One day, Seraphine, he'll discard you too. That warning echoed now. I hit call. Her voice cracked through after 2 rings. Seraphine. Yes, I said, my tone steadier than I felt. We need to talk. By the time I reached her apartment that evening, my anger had cooled into something colder: precision. Clara greeted me with cautious eyes, then saw the tight box of my belongings and understood without asking. We sat across from each other, wine glasses between us, the city lights outside flickering like watchful eyes. I told her everything. The laugh. The smirk. The betrayal that had been dressed as a casual dismissal. And she listened, really listened, in a way no one had in years. Then she leaned closer and whispered, I still have the files, Seraphine. Proof of what he did back then. They destroyed me, but they could destroy him now. Her words fell like a match into gasoline. For the first time all day, I smiled. Not the polite, practiced smile of survival. A different one. The kind that belongs to a woman who finally sees the cracks in the walls of her cage. Clara slid a worn flash drive across the table, the plastic chipped at the edges. I shouldn't even have this, she whispered, glancing toward the door as though someone might be listening. But I couldn't bring myself to destroy it. Call it unfinished business. I picked it up, the metal cool against my fingertips. That tiny object pulsed with power, not just over him, but over the company that had chewed us both up and spat us out. What's on it? I asked. Her eyes hardened. Financial cover-ups. Contracts funneled through shell accounts. Bonuses Hazel didn't earn but signed for. And your husband's name everywhere. I leaned back, breath shallow. The betrayal at the promotion meeting was only the surface. Beneath it, the ground was rotting. Clara studied me. You could burn him with this, Seraphine. But once it's lit, you can't unlight it. I looked at her, this woman who had already been burned by the same fire I'd been trying to survive. For years, I told myself loyalty meant safety. But now, loyalty had left me jobless, humiliated, discarded. Maybe fire was the only way forward. I closed my hand around the drive. He taught me something today, Clara. When people laugh at you while you're drowning, you don't beg them for rope. You learn how to pull them under with you. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, not approval, not encouragement, just recognition. She'd seen the same darkness once before. That night, I sat in my car outside my own house, watching the living room window glow. Inside, he was pouring Hazel a drink. I could almost hear the clink of their glasses, the celebration of my erasure. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from clarity. Hazel wasn't just his choice for the promotion. She was his replacement for me in every way. Colleague. Companion. Accomplice. I didn't walk inside. I didn't confront. I drove away with the flash drive heavy in my pocket, knowing this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about rewriting the story, mine and his. The next morning, I didn't wake up to an alarm clock. I woke to purpose. The flash drive sat on my nightstand like a loaded weapon, daring me to pull the trigger. I brewed coffee in silence, the bitterness coating my throat as I replayed every detail from the meeting. His laughter, Hazel's grin, the way no one dared to meet my eyes. That humiliation wasn't just memory anymore. It was fuel. By noon, I was downtown, inside the glass fortress of a law firm Clara had recommended. The office smelled of leather and cold ambition. I sat across from an attorney with sharp eyes and a sharper suit, sliding the flash drive across his desk. Tell me if it's real, I said. He plugged it in. Lines of numbers, contracts, and transactions spilled across the screen like veins of poison. He frowned. This isn't just real. It's criminal. A pulse of heat rushed through me, fear, yes, but also vindication. 7 years of sacrifice, all the nights I'd worked without recognition, all the times I'd chosen silence, they had their receipts now. He closed the laptop and looked at me with something that felt like warning. This could bury him, Seraphine. But it won't be quiet. If you move forward, the company, Hazel, maybe even you, everyone will be dragged in. I met his gaze steadily. I've already been dragged through hell. I'm just deciding who I'll take with me on the way out. Walking out of that office, the city looked different, sharper, more alive. The skyscrapers no longer loomed like cages, they looked like opportunities. I had been erased, humiliated, silenced. But with each step, the silence cracked. That night, I returned home. My husband barely glanced up from his drink as I entered. Hazel's jacket hung on the back of a chair. The smell of her perfume clung to the air like a taunt. Rough day, he said casually, swirling his glass. I smiled. A calm, practiced smile. Not at all. And in that silence between us, he didn't realize it yet, but his empire was already crumbling. The first crack appeared 3 days later. I was in the kitchen, pouring tea, when I heard his voice in the study, louder than usual, laced with panic. I froze, listening. What do you mean, flagged? He barked into the phone. A pause. Then, no, I don't care how it looks, fix it. Fix it. The crash of glass followed, and I heard his chair scrape violently against the hardwood floor. Hazel's voice floated after, sharp but nervous. Calm down. If Seraphine. He cut her off. She doesn't matter. She's gone. I gripped the mug tighter, the steam stinging my skin. Doesn't matter. I'd given him years of my life, my loyalty, my silence, and that was what I became the second I walked out, irrelevant. Except I wasn't gone. I was right there, in the walls of the house, in the cracks of his empire, in the shadow of every lie he'd ever told. By the end of the week, rumors trickled in. A contact at the firm texted me late at night, audit starting. People are whispering. Hazel looks sick. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the message glowing in my hand. It was happening, faster than I'd imagined. The documents, the truth, had found their way into the right hands. My husband thought I had disappeared, but in reality, I was the ghost haunting him. When I returned to Clara's place to update her, she watched me carefully. You know this won't just ruin him. It'll unravel everything. The company, the people tied to it. Hazel too. I sipped my wine and let the silence stretch. Good. Because Hazel wasn't innocent. She knew. She chose to sit at his side, to grin while he humiliated me. She accepted the crown of a kingdom built on my bones. She could wear it proudly for now. But soon, it would crush her. That night, driving home, I passed the office building where I once belonged. The lights on the top floor still glowed. His floor. His fortress. And for the first time, I didn't see it as untouchable. I saw it trembling. The fallout came like thunder. By the second week, whispers had turned into headlines. News outlets latched onto leaked documents, the very ones Clara had guarded for years. Financial misconduct at Whitmore and Vale, the titles screamed. My husband's face appeared beneath them, his jaw tight, his eyes hollow in photographs. Hazel's name trailed just beneath his, a shadow exposed to daylight. I watched from my living room, the glow of the television flickering across my face. Each word the anchor read was a needle threading through years of silence. The firm had initiated an internal investigation. Clients were expressing outrage. And employees, the ones who never looked at me in the boardroom, were now quoted anonymously, calling him reckless and Hazel unqualified. That night, he came home late, slamming the door behind him. His tie was loose, his face pale with fury. Hazel trailed behind, her heels clicking like gunshots across the tile. "Do you know what they are saying?" he shouted, his voice trembling not with authority but desperation. He poured whiskey with shaking hands, spilling amber liquid across the counter. Hazel tried to soothe him, but he shoved her hand away. I sat calmly on the sofa, legs crossed, watching. For once, he noticed. "You," he hissed, pointing at me as though I were the source of all this. "This started when you left. You poisoned something. I know it." I tilted my head, feigning confusion. Poison? No. But funny how rot always shows when the walls begin to crack. Hazel's eyes darted between us, panic smudging her perfect smile. He slammed the glass down so hard it shattered, shards skittering across the floor. His empire wasn't just shaking now. It was bleeding. Later that night, I heard them arguing upstairs, her voice sharp, his voice broken. She accused him of lying, of dragging her into something she never agreed to. He barked back that she begged for the promotion, begged for his attention, begged to wear the crown. The house that once silenced me was now filled with their chaos. And I lay in bed, finally hearing the sound I had waited years for. Cracks becoming collapse. By the third week, the empire finally buckled. The firm issued a statement, effective immediately. CEO Richard Vale has been placed on indefinite leave pending investigation. Hazel's title vanished from the company website overnight. Their names, once etched in polished brass at the office entrance, were stripped away. I walked past that building on purpose the next morning. The revolving glass doors still spun, employees still rushed in with coffee and folders, but something was different. Their eyes. Their whispers. For years, those same people had dismissed me as the boss's wife. Now, they whispered my husband's downfall like it was a campfire story, a warning. When I reached the lobby, one of the assistants I vaguely remembered caught my gaze. She didn't look away this time. Instead, she mouthed a single word, respect. I carried it with me like armor. That evening, at home, the atmosphere was venom. Hazel had moved out 2 days earlier. I found her perfume still lingering in the guest bathroom, her lipstick-stained glass abandoned on the counter. My husband slouched in his chair, unshaven, eyes red from whiskey and sleepless nights. "You think this is funny?" he spat as I passed by. I stopped. Turned slowly. "No," I said softly. "It's poetic." His laugh cracked, bitter and hollow. "You ruined me." I leaned closer, my voice steady. No. You ruined yourself. I just made sure the world saw it. He stared at me, searching for the woman who once covered his mistakes, who once believed in his promises. But she was gone. What sat before him was the silence he underestimated, sharpened into a blade. That night, I stood in the doorway of what was once our shared office. His desk was littered with unpaid bills, court notices, and unopened envelopes. The mighty oak that once symbolized his power now looked like a carcass. For the first time in years, I felt free in that room. Not small, not erased, free. And yet, I knew it wasn't the end. Justice had been set in motion, but closure was something only I could write. The day of the hearing arrived like a storm. I sat in the back of the courtroom, hands folded in my lap, watching as my husband, the man who once laughed at my ambition, was led to the stand. His suit hung loose now, his face pale, his eyes darting like a trapped animal. Hazel wasn't by his side. She had cut her losses weeks ago, vanishing into another city, another life. The prosecutor's voice was calm but merciless. Page after page of documents spilled across the table, fraudulent contracts, siphoned funds, bonuses funneled to Hazel under false signatures. And there, in black ink, was his name. Over and over. Every lie he'd told me, every smirk, every night he dismissed my worth, it was all here, transformed into evidence that could no longer be silenced. I should have felt triumph. But what I felt instead was something deeper, release. When the judge finally declared the charges, embezzlement, fraud, professional misconduct, the room was heavy with finality. His lawyer's shoulders sagged. He looked back once, his eyes finding mine. Not pleading. Not angry. Just hollow. He had built his kingdom on bones, and now it lay in ruins. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. I walked past them in silence, my heels clicking steadily against the pavement. Each step felt lighter than the last, as though the weight of years had finally been peeled away. That evening, I returned to Clara's apartment. She poured 2 glasses of wine and raised hers in a quiet salute. "You did it," she said. I shook my head softly. No. He did it to himself. I just refused to stay buried with him. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in months, I laughed. Not the hollow laugh of survival, but a real, quiet laugh that belonged only to me. Later, in my own home, I brewed tea in the kitchen. The house was silent now, no Hazel, no laughter, no shouting. Just the hum of the kettle, the steady warmth of steam against my face. I sat by the window with my cup, watching the night stretch wide and open. I thought of the promotion I never received, the humiliation I endured, the cage I once mistook for safety. And I realized, the true promotion had been this, reclaiming myself. I didn't just walk away from him. I walked into my own power.